Hey people, hope everyone is doing okay. Let me know if the audio is fine. I was just preparing a couple of things. I want to talk about, what the video, the title says, staying healthy, taking care of yourself, your family. That would be the main topic I'd like to go through today. But I want to talk also a little bit about what's going on in Qatar. I know it's not a big deal for you guys, the FIFA World Cup, but it's one of those weird things where it is a big deal for pretty much the rest of the planet. So the story goes this way. Every 4 years, you have the FIFA World Cup. That's the football World Cup for the entire planet. And you have the playoffs. Every country plays one another, and the ones that make it to the World Cup. It's a huge event, but it's also a huge political event by which every country that wins the being the host of the World Cup has a whitewashing of their image in the eye of the world, right? Because it's one of those moments in which you end up looking well in front of everyone. There's a lot of money changing hands. There's billions of dollars going from one place to the other. And usually it's very controversial because the countries that end up winning the World Cup sometimes have not all that squeaky clean image. That's why they buy the hosting of the FIFA World Cup to begin with. So let me know there in the comments, are you guys following up any of that? Is it something? I'm pretty sure it's not a big deal for a lot. I want to play, there's a little clip here. I want to play it that is showing a little bit of what I'm explaining here, some of the more controversial aspects. Let's go through this first and then let me know what you think.
Announcing with passionate fans and players around the world descending on Qatar. Tonight,
okay,
a sudden reversal from Qatari officials announcing beer will be banned inside stadiums in the conservative Muslim country.
Yeah, beer banned, that's a big no-no. That's one of the things. If there's one of the things that fans like is to drink beer. So you're hosting the FIFA World Cup in a country where you're not allowed to drink beer, which is kind of messed up.
Despite Budweiser's $75 million sponsorship.
$75 million sponsorship from Budweiser in a country that does not let you drink beer. $75 million being the sponsor of the World Cup.
Me, beer and football go hand in hand.
A shroud of controversy has long loomed over this tournament, with the small Gulf nation under extreme scrutiny for its track record on human rights. Qatar spent billions to modernize ahead of the World Cup. Work often done in brutal conditions and sweltering heat by migrant laborers from countries like Nepal and India. Human rights groups say thousands of workers have died. Yeah,
I'm not super informed about exactly how it goes. Based on what little I know, they bring these guys to work in construction, right? They are legally, they're legal immigrants. It's not like they're illegal immigrants, but they're legal immigrants with a sub-citizen status. They don't enjoy the same rights. Based on what I know, they don't enjoy the same rights, and they're treated pretty poorly. Now, of course, these people come from very poor countries, so yeah, sure, you can abuse that, especially with desperately poor people. But that's one of the many things that's being criticized about Qatar in general.
Qatar was named as host a decade ago.
There have been historical abuses for the past 10 years, be it those who died, be it those who were injured, be it those who lost their wages to construct and prepare Qatar, deliver on this World Cup.
Qatar's government has not responded to NBC News' request for comment. Officials have previously said they are committed to engaging collaboratively and constructively to further improve standards for all migrant workers in Qatar. The country is also under serious scrutiny for its treatment of elderly.
Yeah, we're improving standards for all. Yeah, we're improving standards for all workers. I mean, it's a typical PR reply from a country that has very little in terms of the rights that we take for granted in the West. So yeah, sure, we are a very free, welcoming country, but not really so, I guess. It's a way.
LGBTQ people. Same-sex relationships are illegal here. In a statement to the AP, Qatar's government said it does not tolerate discrimination against anyone. But first known Qatari to publicly come out as gay, Dr. Naz Mohammed has a warning for fans.
The message for them right now is to honestly just watch out for their safety.
USA! USA!
Yeah, and that would be one of the things that maybe the left, especially the woke agenda, is more pissed about the gay stuff. Look, I think that if you are treating someone as a human being, you respect whatever opinion they have. You also respect if they have a disease, a mental disorder. You don't go about discriminating people because they have a disease or because they are sick and probably need help. In some cases, it's psychological help that they need. So although I'm very much against the woke agenda in pretty much all its shapes and forms, the idea of just throwing a guy in prison because of his gender dysphoria, that is a bit like, maybe that's, well, it goes along the lines of everything else that you see from Qatar in terms of rights for people. The same goes for people working, immigrants working in construction. If they get sick, if they get injured, you're kind of screwed. So these are very different countries with, these are monarchies. These are right down monarchies in which people are divided in very specific classes. So, the monarchy is right there on top. These are the rich, some of the richest people in the planet, and for the rest of the plebs. And again, it's a Muslim country that has very strict rules. And you know what? If you don't like it, maybe don't even go there. But the idea that the FIFA World Cup is being played there, it's not cheap. It's not accidental.
So honestly, just watch out for their safety.
USA! USA!
1 million fans are expected here.
There are some
32
fans.
teams will play 64 games over the next 4 weeks.
Football is a game for everyone. Everybody can play at some level.
Tom, despite the controversy, I can tell you there's a lot of excitement here in Qatar. You can even feel it at the airport. Fans arriving in their team's jerseys.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice when you see the left, like they are. I mean, on one hand, they have to keep on pushing the FIFA World Cup as something super inclusive. At the same time, they took the money for doing this in a country that doesn't even allow alcohol. So you have to somewhat navigate those waters of the establishment, the agenda from the left, and a country that literally throws you in jail if you're homosexual. So how is it that you do that? There's gonna be a lot of very clever reporting and avoiding certain uncomfortable topics. Anyway, let me go through some of the comments here. No beer, nukem. Yeah. Someone says in Espanol. Yeah, I'll do it in Spanish. I do the live stream in Spanish as well after this one. So yeah, I'll do an hour of English and then I'll go live in the Spanish channel. So 1 Corinthians 6:9. Yeah, no idea what that is, man. We could just write it down and I could actually read it. The proper pronunciation is gutter. Yeah. Irony. Iranian government has paid for those who want to be transsexual by getting operation. Yeah. Well, the entire, that is a good segue to the main topic that I want to discuss in this live stream about taking care of ourselves, our families, and a big part of that is, yes, protecting our kids from the perversion of the agenda of the left, which if you're not on top of it, if you're not paying attention, just like I explained in the previous video regarding public schools and some of the indoctrination aspects of all of this, if you're not ready for that, your kids may become the next victim. And I see this quite often in different, let me just remove this stuff, in different discussions in survival boards and websites and so on, in AR-15. People say, oh, my kid, turned out to be this way, or my kid surprised me by voting Democrat. Well, maybe where were you when it was a time to have those conversations? And I guess that voting Democrat is not, it used to not be the end of the world. It used to be that in a family, and I'm talking about pre-Obama times. Yeah, I'm getting old, man. But in pre-Obama times, Obama was the one that started mostly polarizing the political scenario, with you're either with us or you're against us, and you're no longer a political adversary, you're an enemy. So that wasn't Trump. Trump in some ways, giving his personality, probably accelerated that, but it was Obama that started with that. And I was already making YouTube videos. I explained how dangerous that kind of way of doing politics could be. The guy is a little bit more, Obama compared to the president that you have right now is pretty much a philosopher, but with his way with words, he was promoting something very nasty, the idea of no longer a political debate and differences of opinions, but an adversary, an enemy from that point, right? So these days, if your kid is Democrat, it's not the same as if it was like your son voted Democrat in one election because he liked a certain candidate. Now it is polarized to the point that people don't no longer talk with one another when they don't agree political, in certain political things. And it is separating families, it's separating friends, it's happening all the time. So yeah, it's something to be very much aware of. And as I said, several times, I have 3 kids. My oldest one is already 20 years old, already a full-grown man, right, in his own right. And the outcome is not accidental. You have to be there, right? I don't show my family. I don't show my kids. I don't, I was just joking, around with my son about, we could do a video. But I'm not comfortable with that sort of thing. It's the level of privacy that I cherish and I've been protecting for so long. I don't feel comfortable compromising that. Of course, once adults are old enough to make their own opinions, sure, why not? But especially with kids, and especially the way in which kids are used to make money. Do you have any idea how much money is made on YouTube using children? There's fortunes. There's multimillionaires that use their kids to make their entire channels. Little kids that were woke up every day to work doing YouTube. Doing YouTube is not easy. It's time consuming. It's tiring. And the way I do it, it's not so invasive. You just see what I want you guys to see. And if this is enough, then that's great. But turning the camera around and showing my wife, all my kids, and that would be super nice for a lot of people. A lot of people would love that and would click on it and, oh, look, that would be nice. But it would be exposing something that it's a bit too much for the way I want to do things. But a lot of people have no problem doing that. They pimp their wives. They have them in tiny clothes, shooting, doing survival stuff, or even their kids. If you have little children, always monetized nicely. Little children, always good money to be made there. So that's something that a lot of people are comfortable with, but at what cost? Anyway. Let me go through some of the comments here. Obama trained by Ford Foundation in California to be a Manchurian candidate. They are taught sexual perversion. Kamala Harris and sister went through the program too. Man, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I didn't know about that. They could serve Corona because it has no. Yeah, Corona sucks. No, let me rephrase that. It's not that Corona sucks. It is like a very light beer. I mean, man, Budweiser, come on. That is not even beer at all. Corona is like a very light Mexican beer. Maybe in summertime, a very cold Corona. I like a bit more, like some of the, I got Heineken beer. I got some German beers. What was it? The one Grolsch, was it the one that I liked? That's good stuff as well. Anyway, German beers. There's a bunch of good beers out there. I don't drink all that much. And yet again, one more thing going into the topic that I want to go through today about staying healthy. drinking a lot is just not good for you. I grab a beer every once in a while, as in maybe, I don't know, once a month. Maybe I have a role in which I get a beer every weekend for a pizza or something like that. But it's maybe just one small bottle every once in a very long while. Same for wine. I think I haven't had wine in almost a year. Could easily be the case. At least 6 months for sure. And when I say haven't had wine, I'm talking about a single glass of this stuff. I sometimes do these stupid things. I had this, I bought like 4 or 5 bottles of wine just trying to get good stuff. So I have it there for a friend that's showing up, probably going to be showing up soon for an asado, right? But I don't drink, I don't smoke. Now, the thing I do indulging is sometimes crappy food, which is also not good for you. So trying to look after your weight, trying to stay healthy. These are key aspects that it's just not really talked about enough. When we talk about survival, preparedness, and all of this stuff that we cover here all the time, and I've been covering, man, for so many years in videos, in my books, you don't give enough time to this critical aspect, which is taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, taking care of yourself physically, mentally. It's, what a topic there to go into. We went for a walk this morning with my wife. My wife, she's very petite, very thin, and she always takes good care of herself. And my kids reflect that as well. I'm the ones that is more overweight of my entire family by far. So it's we are getting into this, going for a walk, and ideally you have to take like 10,000 steps per day. I don't know how long. It's like probably a couple miles, walking a couple miles each day, 2 or 3 miles, probably along those lines. But that's the minimum that you should be doing. Do you walk 3 miles every single day? Probably not. You have the elliptic trainer or the walking machine, the running thing, or rowing. I got a rowing machine it's nice. It does a good workout for the upper body as well. It's more complete, but it's not the same as walking. With walking, you have, it's a mental thing as well, especially if you go walking with someone else. And for people that, if you're lucky enough to have someone to go walking with, if you have a girlfriend, a wife, a husband, whatever is the case it is for each one of you, all the best. You walk with someone else. Now, if that's not the case, knock on doors, check around the neighborhood, see if there's someone that you can get, get into conversations with people in your community. Maybe you're someone that you don't have someone else, but a neighbor, maybe they would be interested in going out for a walk each day. Maybe you make a friend as well. And there we get into the psychological and mental aspect of socializing, how important it is. People that are alone, that's one of the things that it's probably the most significant aspect of premature death for people that are alone is that in itself, the stress of being lonely. There's very interesting literature about how being alone, depressed, stressful, that is something that affects your health in a very direct way. So we end up talking about, some of the stuff that you see around me, the guns and the material aspect of preparedness. We don't talk about this enough. And there's so much that could be done so as to not only improve your survival chances, your overall health, which by far will impact a lot more your survivability, no matter what it is you're facing, than any gun or any amount of gear that you manage to pile up. Yeah. Anyway, it's one of these things that I personally do a lot in my own life, but I don't talk about this enough here. So that's something I think I need to address and do more of. But again, it's difficult because if you're not showing a lot of this, then you do this stuff of talking. And if it's just talking and it's not actually doing, well, doesn't do you any good, right? Homesteading will become a movement. Give me an imperial stout. Spat. What is that? A beer? Okay. So 3,000 steps is just 2 miles. Man, are you sure about that conscious movie reviews? I think it's quite a bit more. But because 2 miles is almost like what, like 2 and something kilometers, almost 3 kilometers. Yeah, I think it's probably more. But anyway, whatever it is, but I think that the number, the goal, the daily goal, that especially in these apps and watches that you have, usually go for, the goal in most of these gadgets is usually around 10,000 steps. I drink and smoy. Ahoy. Okay. Yeah. Well, the thing about doing things in moderation, if you're smoking and drinking, there's people that have been smoking their entire lives that live to be 90 years old. There was this guy that lived 100 years old and had a little bit of whiskey and a cigar every day. Now, for every one of those, let's keep it real. For every one of those, there's probably 1,000 others that had a premature death and horrible quality of life because of the drinking and smoking. But yes, it goes into the aspect of how everything is connected, right? If you work out and you have you're in a good place here, you end up doing things physically that put you in a good place in the rest of your life as well. Working out. If you're depressed, you're probably not going to be feeling encouraged enough to go out and do things, meet people, go on with your life. I've been reading about people that are struggling along with that, people that are lonely, 30-something-year-old guys that are giving up on the idea of one day having a wife and a family because they can't find someone. And when I read stuff like that, I think, yeah, there's probably a lot to it in terms of how our society is today, how it's probably difficult to find good wife material, just as it's difficult to find good husband material for women. The way guys are these days is quite pathetic. Same goes for women. But this goes back to the entire culture that that's been promoted from, especially from the left in the West. Ironically enough, they don't do the same in their own countries, because if you look at places like Qatar, they're very much pro-family, very traditional in the ways they look after themselves, right? What happens in the rest of the world, who gives a damn, right? That's not their concern. And in other cases, it's a way of weaponizing culture as well. So as to weaken a potential adversary or even a potential enemy at some point. Zach says, I wish I had an AR-15 chamber in 50 AE caliber. Why? Why would you even want that? It is a terrible round. It's almost impossible to find in most places. So it's a horrible idea. Okay. Anyway, yeah. If you like the idea of an AR, a 50, yeah, I think the 50 Beowulf was a little bit more popular at some point for AR conversions. There was a guy, I could even pull his name. Who was him? Anyway, there was a guy that did some conversions. He did conversions like with M1 carbines into 50 Beowulf or something insane like that. Was it him? Anyway. Conscious Movie Review says, Fernando, are you in a survivalist community? No, I'm not. And I don't know of a lot of people that are in ones and have had good results. I've heard more horror stories, I guess, and bad experiences in this kind of thing. Well, I guess there's different reasons for that. First, we tend to be a pretty individualistic bunch and not exactly very social. Second, there's many aspects of survival that involve a lot of privacy and you keeping your mouth shut, especially regarding security things and stuff that is probably not smart for you to go around running your mouth. And if you share a lot of that, well, people in your community, and you don't really know people that soon, so as to share some of your preparedness plans and some of your strategies with people that are, as far as you know, complete strangers. So it is, I find it to be quite difficult to be part of a prepper community. Now, every once in a while, I hear about, someone sends me a message or something about, yeah, we have a great group and we all get along great and we prepare and we get together. It's not very often. I get it that every once in a while. No, it wasn't like the M1, the little carbine, like the 30 carbine, not the M1 Grand. Yeah, that's the one he was converting. He was converting a 30 a 30 carbine into something, and he was doing something with a barrel. He was cutting through the barrel so as to put a larger caliber through it, and apparently he had some bad experience with that. Anyway, what happened with Matt, with Bracken? No, we just stopped talking, mostly because we were always talking about the stuff that the war in Ukraine, and Matt has a opinion regarding that, and just the way it is. But yeah, it is unfortunate. It really is, because just because of one thing you have differences of opinion. But I guess it's one of those things that people feel very strongly about, and if you don't see it the same way, it divides people quite a bit. As I was saying before, and especially with everything being polarized in political aspects as well. As I was saying in the start of the video, in the start of the stream, families that don't speak to one another because of their political differences, people that were friends that go separate ways or are apart. I think that there's also something to be said about being respectful. If someone has a difference of opinion and wishes to not continue talking about that for a while, hopefully eventually you can get back together and talk about other things, but you have to also respect when someone just doesn't want to continue a conversation. That's also understandable. I don't like war, not worth it. Yeah, we can definitely agree on that. Now, there's times in which you don't have much of an option. If you're how many millions of Ukrainians have been forced out of their homes? How many thousands have died because of the ambition of one man? It's the ambition of one man only. Russians did not want this either. Russians did not want to invade Ukraine. It was one man and his ambition that got to this point. And that's the danger of having a dictator. That's the danger of communism and having a supreme leader like in North Korea, or having a Cuba or a Venezuela. Everyone follows this one dictator that is in power in perpetuity. In many ways, it's pretty much like a less evolved modern monarchy, which at the end of the day is something very similar, but a little bit more politically correct, I guess. So it's unfortunate, but when a single man has so much power and can decide to throw an entire nation into something like this, but war is not worth it and war is bad. Sure, but what can you do? If I'm a Ukrainian and I have to escape my country because it's being destroyed by a foreign invader, what can you possibly do? You get your family out of there, you probably stay and fight, right? That's what you would hopefully do. So wait, so what happened? I mean, it's just that we talked about it, and he felt that it was something that we just been debating strongly and having discussions for several weekends, and it was he wished to take a bit of time and not continue doing it, which I fully respect. So that's the only thing that happened. Thanks for clearing up with Bracken. That's very unfortunate. Hopefully you guys will reconcile. Yeah, the thing is, we didn't. I mean, I consider Matt a great friend of mine, even though he wishes to not continue talking about. And I understand why it's tiring to talk about the same topic that we obviously have complete opposite views on. So what would be the point of continuing talking about something that we clearly don't agree on? I mean, I wish we could continue talking about other things, but it's true that if it's something that you feel very strongly about, you have to respect that as well. Yeah. Neighbors, my neighbors know practically nothing about my supplies and hobbies. My close friends and family know. The friends are good, some of the family not so much. Yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, sometimes you think, well, family. Well, family can be pretty crappy as well. Family can be terrible at times. Family can be, your worst nightmare, depending on how bad your family is. And again, families that don't talk with one another, families that sue and destroy one another, families that have actually killed one another. Wouldn't be the first time. It's actually one of the first things that cops look into when there's a crime. They look about the context, and that includes family and friends. Both of those are usually involved when there's something shady going on. But when it comes to a preparedness, yes, you have to be very careful. I mean, I have some, I don't have many friends, so that's why someone that I consider a friend, that is a big deal for me. And I'm maybe not the friendliest person in the planet. I also am extremely fortunate in that I have, a great wife, great kids. My wife is my best friend as well. So we talk about everything all the time. There's no one I'd rather spend more time with than with my family. And I guess that's what hopefully people end up having if they're lucky enough. And I get it that a lot of people are not, and they, end up, going more for making a stronger circle of friends. And that is just as respectable and valuable too. But because of that, I'm not exactly the guy that has, I have hundreds and thousands of friends. No, I just have a handful of friends that I consider people that are friends. And talking about preparedness stuff with people that are not completely trustworthy, that can be complicated. The Russian-Ukraine thing will eventually pass. I love the discussion and banter between you and Matt. I really hope it will resume one day. Yeah, I get it that it was very heated at times. And, if all you do with your friend is argue, then man, it's kind of unfortunate, relationship. So if you want to take some time and wait for things to cool down and eventually, go back to it, that's okay too. Fixed blade has to be. I love it when people just throw something like out of nothing. A 3-inch blade has to be carried. Where is that? Maybe I missed something here in the comments. Oh yeah, there it is. Folding knife or a small pocket fixed blade, turnip green. I'm more of a folding knife guy. I get it that some people like, fixed blades knife, and of course the fixed blade will be a lot more sturdy than any folding knife. It's also true that a small fixed blade is easier to just remove and put to use. So I had my TDI knife, the one that's like a little claw thing. I tried carrying a while. It just doesn't work for me. Some people like the neck knives. I don't know, having a neck knife. The folder is something that I'm happy with, but I get it. The small fixed blade it's quicker because you bring it out and you already have the blade deployed. It is stronger because it's a freaking fixed blade, and also it removes one of the potential problems that you can have with a folding knife, which is in the middle of a fight or something going on, bringing out the knife and deploying it, even if it's second or first nature for you, given how much you've done it. I still understand that you still need to manipulate that knife with your hand, and it's a bit more likely to be dropped. So a fixed blade, even a smaller one like a 3-inch, it's better. But I find that the folder is more practical, and you have to find that middle ground between what is better and what is more practical. It can be small, under 3-inch. Yeah, you don't need a huge knife for self-defense. It's true that if you go with a 4-inch folder, that's also a respectable blade. And it is also true that usually when carrying fixed blades, man, you're limited to something that's going to be under 3 inches, or closer even to 2 inches, depending on how much you can get away with, the kind of clothes you wear, and so on. So yeah. Fernando, Knockface, thank you, Knockface, for the support always there with the super chat, man. You're my hero. Fernando, the big story this week is the GOP will take the HOR. My question is whether the House of Representatives. My question is whether the GOP will take it to the Biden admin like the Dems did to Trump, or will they roll over as usual? Thoughts? I think that nothing will change, man. I think you're looking at, and this is something that Joe Biden, he literally said when he was asked, what will change now after the election? Nothing. Those rare moments of honesty where he just says what he's really thinking whenever he, poor old man goes through that fog that is probably clouding his judgment all the time and his more basic thoughts. And he will change nothing. So expect everything to stay the same as you see now. I don't think that you have enough weight either way to see big changes. And the way it has gone, you would have needed like a big red wave. It should have been like a massive red wave that if I had seen that, I would have had a different opinion and say, now you're likely to see some things change. And it could have been changed for even more conflict, because as you stand against what the left is trying to do in the country, holding the holding office, it could be even more. But now what you will see is a continuing of the work, or more like the destruction of the country in several aspects for another 2 years. It seems. Let me know what you guys think. I feel as if Biden has been president for 10,000 years. It's been forever. This man stretches time. It just feels as time is like in a black hole, a warp of time and space where an hour is like an entire day. Where am I? It's like 4.5 or some. Check out the Ese Izula or 3 or 4 hood fixes blades. I'm carrying a Benchmade Griptilian right now. The Ese Izula is nice. One little thing about Ese in general is they are nice knives. They're good models. They have good designs. But I feel it's overpriced. Many of the things I see from Ese are, even though they're well designed, and a good design is important, I feel you're paying a lot for the brand. It's a 1095 carbon steel. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you look around a little bit, you'll find some brands that make knives that are pretty much the same in terms of blade geometry and overall design, that are cheaper and made of much better steel, like quality stainless steel that is going to be tougher, stronger, taking an edge, holding an edge longer than your 1095. It's not going to be rusting like 1095. And there's definitely better options. The Izula is a nice design. The Izula is a very good design from them. I feel that's a little bit overpriced, but about tastes, whatever it is. The GOP citing all the criminal charges of the Biden family is a sign that they may already did a tribunal in private. Oh, man, I don't know. It's one of those things where you just wonder what cards do each one hold against the other. When I saw Trump, kind of like blackmailing DeSantis, like, I know stuff about DeSantis that you don't want me saying. I mean, you're blackmailing other Republicans in your same party, the leading figures in your party, you're blackmailing them. And I feel that the same goes for Democrats and Republicans in general, when they say, like, I mean, what happened with the laptop? I mean, we all know what happened with that. It was just hushed away. The FBI, and you don't have to dig deep into any conspiracy. On CNN, the FBI admitted to holding information regarding Hunter Biden laptop because they were in the middle of an election and they didn't want that to affect the result. On CNN, they say that. The FBI admits that. So it's like, I feel like a freaking ovni, like a UFO could just land in Washington, D.C., and people would not even be surprised anymore. We've gone past that, we've gone past that point of, the weird, the Twilight Zone. Remember the old Twilight Zone episodes where people were shocked by that which was, alien. Well, nothing surprises us anymore. Anything could be made public and people are just desensitized to it. And so whatever anyone has on Trump, whatever anyone has on DeSantis, whatever anyone has on Kamala Harris or Joe Biden for that matter, no one seems to care. Whatever is put out there on the internet is just going to be 10 seconds of shock and, oh, okay, I go on with my life. That's what it has become. And that's a complicated spot to be in. MSB9021, thanks, man, for a super chat. Much appreciated. Can't let Knockface be the only one, LOL. Well, thanks, guys. I definitely appreciate the support for the channel. It's not always easy, and one of the things that happens having a channel like mine, I have lots of my videos that are demonetized with this not appropriate for all advertisers or whatnot. So you're not placed in demonetized completely, but it's in yellow, right? So if I cover a topic that is less offensive to YouTube, and these days it could be anything, even talking about political stuff is enough to get you demonetized. But they make it very difficult for us. Now, if you have a channel where a semi-naked 18-year-old is putting makeup on or doing naked yoga, that is apparently okay and perfectly adequate for monetization. But if you talk about things that open up people's minds, that's gonna be not as okay. So the super chats and all of that is definitely much appreciated. Uniparty, yeah, that's kind of how I see it. And again, I've said it many times, I'll say it again. I think that DeSantis is the best bet at having something that gives you a chance of changing how things are going based on what he has done in Florida, based on what he has said. Not so much on what he has said, which we can all like what someone says, but it's what he does that matters. Going after Disney for me was, whoa, you really went there. You really went after, Disney and the company that owns Disney that we're almost too scared to even mention at this point. And at this point, if you don't know who owns Disney, there's no point in me telling you who does that, because you should know that already. But they own everything else. They know they own every single thing that is that has power and influence over our society. Yeah, they won't do they won't do shit. McConnell and McCarthy. Yeah. Democrats cheating again. Voter fraud. Biden is dead. It's a bad double. It's a bad double. Man, I don't know. Sometimes you just wonder, right? Conscious movie review. Brunson versus Adams case in the Supreme Court will decide if the sitting vice president, VP, and 388 House members can be removed. Always love vintage Gerber Mark II nice. Gerber has made some nice stuff in the past. There's a Gerber, is it that the Guardian? I have one of those little Guardian knives. I have one made in US. I think they're still made in US, the Guardians, right? As last time I checked, the Guardian little dagger was still being made in US. may not be the case anymore. But anyway, MK2 is awesome. Yeah, it is. Brown39, thanks, man, for the super chat. Much appreciated. If I'm not mistaken, every county in the U.S. went more red. I think Tim Pool claimed that. I don't know. It could be, but yeah. Now the county went red, but what about the majority of people at the end of the day always end up concentrating in the main cities? It's always been that way. So even if a county with smaller population, which is usually more likely to vote conservative, as they generally do, you win those, but you end up losing the vote. So. Conscious movie reviews. DeSantis is not what people think. He's on the dark side. Many are already fooled. What do you mean by that? That he's on the dark side. It's nice when people give a little bit more context and just say he's on the dark side. When he's like Darth Vader. Come on, give us something more, some information that, if you have any video of DeSantis, killing puppies or doing whatever, it would be nice to share it here with a group. But yeah, I'm not a fanboy of anyone. I like what he has done with the guys. It's very simple. The way DeSantis handled the pandemic, it was admirable because he stayed strong. Even when the president was in bed, because this is the case. Even when Trump was in bed with all the pharmaceuticals and it was warp speed. Pharma for everyone, even at that point, and we all know what happened in pretty much all other states, DeSantis kept Florida open, and he stayed strong in that position with schools, with masks, with everything. And it was a very confusing moment for a lot of people because on one hand, you had the woke agenda of shut up and obey. On the other hand, you had people that said, and when I hear people say like masks don't work, what mask are you even talking about? Masks work for what masks are designed. The problem is when you start using things for a purpose that was never intended, and especially when it becomes more about a political statement, wearing a surgical mask that historically that's what your dentist uses so as to not spit in your mouth. That's the only purpose it serves, and little else when doing surgery. That's why it's called a surgical mask. It's the only a thing that was thought with that particular piece of equipment is not spitting on the open surgery that I'm performing. That was basically it. All of a sudden, it became about a political statement that use this and you're and you're protected, right? No, it's not you're protected. You're protecting others. No, that doesn't work either. No, but there's a little fog laser thing where I show that when I cough, it's only a little bit of fog going out on the side, so everything is okay. Anyway, but yeah, the DeSantis thing regarding the way he handled the pandemic, I think he did great. He handled it admirably well, and it was not easy because a lot of people were fooled. A lot of people went for the plan of the elites, and he did the right thing. And with Disney, he did the right thing as well. No one dared go after Disney. It was the first time that DeSantis opened that can of worms with Disney having their own country basically in Florida, which is insane. And the moment in which Disney started messing with kids and the LGBT insanity, that cult, he did the right thing there too. So whatever dark side DeSantis has, share it there or whatever. But unless he's been doing terrible things that we all don't know of. Trump is hated by the establishment. DeSantis isn't. I'll take Trump. No, you got that all wrong. Trump is hated by the establishment. You think the establishment hates Trump after what? No, man, not at all. Now, DeSantis could be, for Disney, the way he can. Disney is massive. Disney is BlackRock. Do you know what that even means? And having the guts to go against BlackRock, at least in some aspect, one of the more critical aspect of it, no. Trump is definitely more a friend of the establishment and the elite than DeSantis. I love being an infantry officer, but I think being a big city cop for 20 years was more dangerous. Man, I completely agree with you there. Cops go through some crap that people don't understand, and depending on what city you are in, not all cities are the same. Some cities are pretty safe, some are very super dangerous. Depending on where you are, it could be quite dangerous. Conscious movie reviews. DeSantis has many supporters by the criminal wealthy who will support him financially in 2024 if he runs. Media siding with him is another sign. There's other evidence. Well, it depends what media. I don't know which one sides with DeSantis. Like Fox. I see Fox supporting both, and Fox is elite. Fox supports both Trump and DeSantis based on what I see. CNN would be more like I don't see it. I don't see how the main established media, the what they call the legacy media, being more supportive of DeSantis than Trump. I think they've always gone more supportive of the Democrat, and anything woke seems to be what they support the most. But I don't see how they support DeSantis more than Trump. And one of the things you have to keep in mind, sometimes they may be, for example, CNN may be supporting Trump in ways that you don't even imagine. And you know how they do that? By talking about him, by putting him as their enemy, and you saying, look, CNN hates Trump. That's why I like him. And in many ways, that's their own way of giving more power to someone like Trump. You know what they do when they don't want you, when they hate you, when they want to destroy you? They do what they did to Ron Paul. They don't talk about you, man. When CNN wants to erase you from the public debate, you're not even talked about. There's a great clip from back in the day where they were talking about who was running. They were running for president. This wasn't. They're talking about who's running, who's number one, who's number two, and who's number four. They didn't even mention who was number three, because number three was Ron Paul. They didn't even mention his name or show his face. That's how you know that they're really against someone. We won the House. This was massive win. Yeah. Well, about how many? Isn't it like for one vote? It is super close. One of my best friends was an armor CPT. Always called me a crunchy. Conscious movie reviews. Candace, Owen, Ben Shapiro, Cernovich, Crowder all support DeSantis. They are all suspect. Mainstream media have been supporting DeSantis. Well, I will. Conscious movie reviews. I agree with you on one thing here, which is that anything that comes from all of those people that you just mentioned, I would take everything with a huge grain of salt. Yeah, they are establishment. They are the elites, right? They present more of a alternative conservative voice. But when you look at the sponsors, when you look at who really supports them, it is like that famous. It's a uniparty system. It's like that famous Simpsons. Back when the Simpsons was smart, when they removed the masks of both aliens and they're all the same. Like, you have to vote for Kodos or whatever the other guy was. It's a bipartisan system. You have to vote for one of us. I think that as long as you have just Democrats and Republicans, nothing's really going to change. It's always the same thing. And this opinion of mine, it is strongly supported by 80 years of politics. Doesn't matter who's president, if it's a Republican or a Democrat, they all support whatever the elite is supporting at that time, including wars. When Obama got the Nobel Prize for Peace in the middle of a freaking war in the Middle East, sending troops and bombing the crap out of those people, it was like, okay, I don't know. Did people really see the irony in that? Oh, but he's a left-wing politician. Yes, he's sending money the same way and supporting the same thing that a Republican would have supported, just the same. Tanker Jack, thanks, man, for the super chat. Again, I really appreciate those because it helps out quite a bit in the channel. The election result reflects younger voters being leftists due to 50 plus years of indoctrination in government schools. We must concentrate on reclaiming our schools and saving our kids from leftist mental poisoning. Fantastic. Yeah, great comment, man. Yes, I couldn't agree with you more, man. Absolutely. And this, again, how much time do you spend with your kids? You know how many times I've told my kids, if you vote for the left, I would disown you. Never in my life did I do anything like that. Never. And one teacher from a public school that did me a huge favor that I can never repay was a commie teacher. My oldest son, he had a commie professor that he was so commie in this stupid way commies are. He would come from school every day and show me the articles of Marxist propaganda that he was given, and that man opened up the eyes of my son to what communism really is. This indoctrination, this insanity, this thing that we all understand, that many young kids are confused, many young men even are confused too as well. This commie professor made it so obvious what communism is really all about that it was, for me, it was, yeah, that's what communism is. That what that commie is telling you, that's what it is. Would you like to live in that in a regime like that? Would you like to live in a Soviet country, in Soviet Russia, in communist Cuba, in Venezuela? All of this man praises and loves and is promoting in your classroom, and that was it. Let's just say I'm not worried about my kids voting communism or socialism. Yeah, running out of time, and I have to jump over to the Spanish channel, guys. So last few comments that I'll go through here. But yeah, and as I say, if there's any specific topics, if there's anything important going on the news during the week, I'll address that in the weekend live stream. But if there's even topics you'd like me to prepare for next weekend, leave a comment there below in the video, and I'll try to cover that next week. When you see that Joe Rogan and Sean Hannity, who are part of the cabal, who pay them supporting DeSantis, watch out. Well, I like many of the things that Joe Rogan does. I understand that many of the things are, like you're saying, Joe Rogan has his own interests, his own supporters, and he probably plays ball with many things that are not in the best interest of our, us mere mortals that are not multi-billionaires and are not in bed with the elite. Conscious movie reviews. The kind of socialism they want in the U.S. is Fabian socialism. That's violent. Yeah, socialism has different variations, but when you see what they want to impose, it's and when you see what you find in the BRICS countries, when you see what's going on in China, in Venezuela, Cuba, Russia, when you see a leader that's there forever, that's called a dictator, no matter how much you like it. And I understand that a lot of people like Putin, or they used to like Putin, and maybe many changed their mind about that. I hope that many did. But a lot of people in AR15.com, there's a lot of people, oh, I wish we had Putin as president. No, you wouldn't have Putin as president. You would have Putin as your dictator. And I mean, yeah, we have to disagree on that. But that's the common denominator with the left. Whatever flavor of left people like, communism, socialism, authoritarian dictator, cult dictator like in North Korea, it is absolutely obedience to the leader. Anyone that questions dies. And corruption, of course, that's how it goes. So anything that encompasses that, for me, it's pretty much the same. And it goes against the basic foundation of democracies in the West, that as failed as they are, as imperfect as they are, I will always take that over communism and over a freaking dictator, no matter how much of a badass he pretends to be. Okay? So yeah, guys, I'll have to go over to the Spanish channel. So if you understand Spanish, follow me over there. Guys, see you next time. Let me check just one last, if there's anything. Oh, Steve Bishop, man, hope you're doing okay. We should pretty much start out with the opposite position as MSM, then go from there on any given topic. Yeah, at the very least, be super suspicious of what they want you to think and question everything, especially how things are going. Folks, see you on the next one. Thanks. Take care.